Before having a look at what state offers, let's go through some theory. So what does state mean here? So state is a built-in object within a React component. Okay. In the state object, we store property values which belong to that component itself. So how we used to pass props from one component to another, state is something that is within the component. Okay. So one difference that you can note down is props is passed from one component to another, but those are immutable, whereas states reside within that piece of component itself. Okay, so when the state object changes, the component is set to re-render. We'll see in a minute how the component re-renders. So props serve a similar purpose to the state, but both are plain JavaScript objects itself. So one difference, as told earlier, is props is something that you pass, whereas state is something that is managed within the component. Okay, so now before heading on to hooks, okay, let's see what hooks we have. So one hook that we are going to make use of now is your use state. Okay, so that is how you go about like making use of the state in a function component. So you have many other hooks as well. So there's use reducer, use effect, use context, use ref, use memo, use callback, use transition, use deferred value. Okay, so these hooks for now, let's keep it aside because these are some kind of an advanced topic which you need to go through later on. But as of now in this course, I would be teaching you two hooks. Okay, one is the use state and one more is use effect. These two hooks are predominantly used even in your small scale React applications. Okay, so we'll go about using states first. So how do you go about using state is we have here example, right? So what we'll do first is let's do one thing, create a component. Okay, let's say we call it message. Okay, message.js, simple. Now how do you start? It's a function, name of the function. Okay, this is plain JavaScript, right? Now I don't want this, let's do it our way. This is our way, and then you return something. So what you want to return here is let's say some message. Okay, let's first, like, how do you go about printing it or getting in the browser? First thing is you have to export it. Either you can do export default or you can do a named export. I'm gonna go with the named export. So once I export this, where do I have to make use of it? In the app, right? So what I'll do is, let's keep our code clean. So I'll kind of remove the unwanted stuff, and here what I'm going to do is I'll call the message component. Sorry. Okay, so message is there. Remove all the unwanted imports. So once we call message, if you see our screen, we have message, right? But now I told you we're going to explain what states are, right? So states are nothing but something that resides within the component. So how do I go about doing that is you use the hook. Okay, what is the hook is use state hook. So how do you do is const, you have an array. Okay, so that array takes two things. So one is the variable, so let's name the variable as message, and one more is a function which is actually responsible for you to change the variable. Okay, so let's name it as set message. This is how you go about the convention. So if you have the variable as message, the function will be set message. One more thing you can see here, I'm using the camel case notations, right? So that is one. So now you do equals and then you tell use state. Okay, this is your use state, simple use state. Okay, but now over here it takes an argument which is the initial value of your use state. Okay, so initial value of your use state. Now let's say that I want to greet someone. Okay, so welcome to. Okay, now if I want to print this, I told you it is a variable, right? So if you want to print something of JavaScript within your return, how do you do it? You wrap it within braces, right? So now you see there's one error coming here, right? It says use state is not defined. So how do you go about doing that is on the top of the file, so you go import use state from React. Okay, you see the error going now. There are a bit of warnings, but we'll not look into that as of now. So now if we have a take a look at the browser, you see, okay, there's an error which says or its return value is not iterable. Okay, so now let's try to kind of fix this. What is the error? Um, what could be going wrong is, let's try to console first. Okay, line number 4 is what it says. This one. Um, okay, give me a second. I've named it rightly. Okay, sorry, this is a mistake. Now if I remove the log, remove this, let's remove these as well. Nothing should work. Yeah, cool. Okay, that's why I kind of go about using the extensions that I've installed, because you usually don't go about memorizing how the import statements are or something. Because what we usually do is, as you might have seen, I do this. So use state snippet, I get the whole snippet. So just for the tutorial purpose, I was like typing along. But yeah, I can do make mistakes while typing along because I'm not trying to use the snippets, because it will be difficult for you guys to understand. So this is one thing. So we did see that if you want to import something, use state, we go about using curly braces. And in the earlier stages, I have also told you why do we go about using curly braces, right? So if it is a what default export, we don't go about using, but if it is a named export, we go about using curly braces. Okay, so this thing is done. Now you see the welcome to GX coming in. It is all fine, but I made one thing clear in the previous thing, previous lectures, is that props are immutable, states are mutable. So how do you make this guy change? Like if it's mutable, he has to change, right? So how do you go about doing that is, let's say we need a trigger, right, for things to change. So what we'll do is, we'll create one button. Okay, so let's say the button says click me. So okay, one main important thing which you all should know is this particular line which says JSX expressions must have one parent element, right? What does it mean by one parent element? Is that your function is set to return you only one particular div. Okay, so it's like one div overall. Okay, so the JSX returned has to be a one div always. It's something like this. You can either name it like this. This is called as React fragments. Okay, or you can go about using div, one and the same. But there are a few kind of performance issue wise, or how your DOM actually understands the function component is a bit different when you use div and when you don't use, like when you use React fragments. Okay, so as a best practice, I would recommend you to use these in the outermost, which is React fragments. Now we have a button. Let's see if it's there. Yeah, it's there. But now there's no action or trigger point there, right? So how do you go about using trigger points here? You get on click. One more thing, notice here, this C, it's not your HTML way of doing things. We discussed earlier that it's camel casing, right? So now what I'll do is, on click, I would call an arrow function which calls this particular function. I told you in use state, your first variable, the first thing is a variable, okay, and the next thing is a dispatcher or a function which is used to change this guy over here. So what you'll do is set message, and what will it take? We want to change it to something, right? So from welcome to Galaxy, let's say that mm, you're done for the day, and yeah, you're just done for the day. So let's type done for the day itself. Okay, so now what will happen is, if you go and see over here, there's no change as such because it's welcome to Galaxy, click me. But As soon as I hit over the click me, you see what's coming? Yeah. So what happened here? I was able to change the state within the component, right? But if it was props, I wouldn't have been able to do it.